What's up guys, it's me Lego Paradise here, and today I'm going to show you my Lego minifigure collection display. I've been collecting Lego sets for well over 10 years, and in that time I've acquired hundreds of different Lego minifigures. Although up until recently I didn't have a proper place to display them. So that's why I decided to go out and get this display cabinet, as well as design a custom display stand system to allow me to showcase all of my favourite and best Lego minifigures. And here they are, over 400 of what I think are my most interesting Lego minifigures from a wide variety of themes, ranging from collectible minifigures to Star Wars, and even a couple of ultra rare minifigures. So of course I'll be showing you each row of minifigures closer up in a lot more detail, and talk a little bit about some of the more interesting minifigures. But before I get round to that, I'd like to start off by talking about the display case itself. So you can see that this is just a normal wooden display cabinet, and it normally comes with some glass doors, but I've just removed the doors for this video, so there's less reflections on the minifigures. And you can see that this display cabinet contains 6 shelves, which makes it perfect for arranging each set of minifigures based on their theme or the type of minifigures that they are. As you can see, the top of the display cabinet contains all of my collectible minifigures, going in order from the earlier series all the way down to the later series on the second to the top shelf. And then below that we have minifigures from Lego's own themes, then superhero minifigures, as well as some other licensed minifigures in the middle. Then underneath that, the Star Wars minifigures, and below them, some Harry Potter and custom Lego minifigures. And once again, these are not all of my Lego minifigures, these are just the ones which I thought were the most interesting and look the best on display. And talking a bit more about the display, you can see that each shelf of minifigures is separated into 3 rows in order of height. So you can see that this allows me to display minifigures on different tiers, and this means that I can fit a lot of minifigures in each shelf and really be efficient with this display design. So you can see how I made this display stand system using just a few simple Lego pieces. Mainly just window pieces stacked on different heights. This provides the different levels of elevation, as well as some long 64x64 base plates which have been cut to fit the size of the display cabinet. And when I was ordering the display cabinets, I actually made sure to find some that would be as close to the exact size of a 64x64 base plate as possible. So in total, this meant I only needed to cut up 3 of these large base plates, since each row fits 228 wide stud base plates, which I think works out pretty well and allows for a very cost-effective display system. And just another quick note, I've made sure that the display includes almost no duplicates, since I think having unique minifigures makes the display a lot more diverse and a whole lot more interesting. So first we'll take a look at my collectible minifigures. I've arranged them in order of series, starting at series 1 at the very top, and going along the series, the order they were released, all the way down to the more recent and current series at the end of the second shelf. But we'll start at the very top with series 1. So I was lucky enough to get these minifigures back when they were originally released in 2010, and this is something that I followed with really all of the following series of minifigures. I haven't been aiming to get the complete set in each series. I've just been buying the minifigures which I think are the most interesting or contain the most useful elements that I can reuse in other creations. So that's why you'll see a lot of incomplete series, but at least in my opinion, you have the most interesting minifigures from each set. So like in series 1, you've got some of the coolest ones like the clown, the crash test dummy in the corner there, the caveman at the top, and the cheerleader figures. They're all pretty cool. And then moving on to series 2, Here you also have some of my favourites, like the Mexican Maraca Man with his maracas, and the Disco Dude. And all of these minifigures, they're really all displayed in not any particular order. They're just displayed how I think they look the best on each row. And that creates a lot of variety and lots of colour in this section of the display cabinet. So then as we move along to the later series, you can see some more of the minifigures. Like the cool ones, like the Samurai in the corner with special armour. And the Hazmat guy, I believe he's from Series 4. He's also a pretty cool one. As well as lots of all the other different minifigures from each series. Now the next shelf along contains even more of the collectible minifigures, this time from the later series, as well as some rare ones in the middle, and I'll get to those in a bit. So you can see some of the more interesting ones from Series 5, like the Space Marine with his bright orange visor, and the bunny suit guy. And it's quite funny, LEGO went on to produce many more different suited minifigures, different animal costumes later on. And I believe this all started with the gorilla suit guy from Series 3. And here you can see all the ones from Series 5 and 6 and onwards. And they continue all the way along. And I won't go into too much detail about any of them, since I'm sure you've seen all of the more common and more famous collectible minifigures already lots of times elsewhere. But this is just to get an overview of those ones. But when we get to the middle of the display cabinet, this is where it starts to get interesting. This is a set of 9 Olympic Games minifigures dressed in the Team Great Britain outfit that were released for the London 2012 Olympic Games. And these minifigures are quite rare. They're part of the official collectible minifigures line, but they were only released in England in official LEGO stores around London. And since I live quite close to London, I was able to get a complete set of them, and I'm really happy about that because I think these are some of the coolest sports themed minifigures that LEGO has produced. So you can see each of them in order are the tennis player, a swimmer, a boxer, karate, horse riding, gymnast, archery, runner, and a weightlifter at the bottom. And I think these minifigures are really well done, and again, since they're so exclusive, I was really lucky to get them at the time that they were released. But if we continue along past the Olympic Games minifigures, you get to some of the much more recent series, like the Halloween minifigures from last year, as well as some of the later series, all the way up to the Ninjago movie minifigures. And these are some which I got quite recently, in fact. And at the end, you can see there's just a little bit of space to expand for any more minifigures I get in the future. But I also left that area open just so you can see how I built up this display stand of the different tiers of minifigures. On the next row, I've displayed minifigures from LEGO's own themes. And of course, LEGO produces a lot of different themes, and I haven't displayed anywhere near the amount of minifigures that I've got from all of LEGO's original themes. But here I've just placed some of the most interesting ones, which is really the theme for this whole display cabinet, and I've arranged them in an order which I think looks the coolest. So we'll start at the end, and here you can see are some minifigures from the classic Johnny Thunder theme. And in case you don't know what this was a LEGO Adventurers type theme inspired by Indiana Jones that came out in the late 90s and early 2000s. And in the theme, the idea was that Johnny Thunder here followed the globe in search of ancient treasure across different temples and locations, all the while trying to get to the treasure first before his enemy, Lord Sinister, in the corner. And you can see this minifigure actually has a hook for a hand. That was quite unique back then. A reason why I display these minifigures, apart from being such a classic LEGO theme, is because I think that these minifigure prints are really well done for their time. And almost all of these minifigures include original elements. There's only a few pieces which I've swapped out during the time that I've had these minifigures, but I think they all look really nice and stand up to even today's standard of LEGO minifigures. So then moving along, here's some more assorted LEGO minifigures. At the bottom there's a set of 3 cowboy minifigures from the Wild West theme. So you have one sheriff deputy at the bottom there, as well as 2 bandits in the middle. And what's quite funny about this theme is that the Wild West theme, at least the very original one, is one of the few themes where LEGO minifigures were actually supposed to have a nose. And you can see that this is quite apparent with the red bandit, so you can see his design of a rather chubby nose. And that's just quite funny, and it's not often you see things like noses on LEGO minifigures. And I thought that's just an interesting detail to point out. And then above the Wild West minifigures, you have some pirate ones. These are from the 2009 pirate theme, so you have the captain, this time with a golden hook and a peg leg, and a mermaid minifigure. And they're both pretty interesting minifigures, and include some interesting parts which really weren't that common at the time that they were made. So then continuing it along, in the middle are some minifigures from the LEGO Agents theme. And I think these minifigures were all really creative, especially on the bad guy enemy side. And one of my favourites is this guy here, who's got a head based on the traditional LEGO bank robber minifigure, but this time he's got a diamond in his eye to maybe reflect his personality, or maybe he's even got a literal diamond stuck in his eye. Either way, it's pretty funny. And of course, at the back are all 4 of the original agents themselves, each with a slightly different variation of their uniform and headgear. And then before we just move on to the middle, I've just included a classic space minifigure. Although this isn't an original, this is from a promotion that was a few years ago, where I got him free for ordering something on the LEGO store. And you can tell that it's not an original classic space minifigure just by the updated helmet and head design. But either way, that's pretty cool and works really well just to fill in the space. So then in the middle, here are another set of minifigures from the Night Kingdom theme. I think this was part of the inspiration for themes like Ninjago and Nexo Knights, which also use different heroes that each have their own unique colour scheme. Nowadays this theme isn't as popular and it's not really looked back on as such a great theme, but I really enjoyed the design of these knights at the time. I especially like that each of their helmets is based on a different style of plate armour. That's something really unique, and I think it adds a whole lot of diversity to their appearance. And then the main villain of the series, in fact one of the only villains of Knight's Kingdom, is this guy here with his scorpion shield. And he's looking pretty evil, but he's still got a really cool and unique helmet design. And above these minifigures are some of my Ninjago minifigures. I've included some of the very earliest Ninjago minifigures from the very first wave of sets, back when they were fighting a skeleton army. So you can see the different skeleton generals and soldiers, as well as some classic Sensei Woos, and a couple of the ninjas in their rare golden dragon outfit. And then, again, before we move on, I've just included a chef minifigure, since I think that's a pretty cool one, just to fill in the space between that set of minifigures. So as we move along, at the bottom of this row are minifigures from the Lego movie. And I didn't really get that many sets. This is pretty much all the minifigures that I got. And I think all of these were from the cheapest set in the theme. But it's got all the main characters. And I'm pretty happy with them. And you can see how Benny here, with his classic space uniform, compares to the recreation over on this side. You can notice the difference in the helmet and the face design, since Benny here is more close to the original design of the classic spaceman. And then above those, at the very back, are some Lego basketballers. And this is another quite funny Lego theme, which was made around 2004, at the time where Lego started introducing flesh-coloured minifigures. So of course you have some yellow-skinned minifigures here. These aren't based on real-life basketballers, but then you have the minifigures based on the real-life versions of some famous players. And what's cool about these is that each of these basketballers has springs in their legs, which allows you to flick the minifigures back and hold out a ball, a little basketball piece in the hands, and they would fling it back if you launch them back all the way by bending their legs. And this meant that you could create little games of basketball using teams of these minifigures on miniature Lego basketball courts. And then moving on towards the end of this shelf, there's a bit of a mixed assortment of minifigures. So for example, in the middle here, first you have Santa Claus. That's the same minifigure I used for my how to build a Lego Christmas tree tutorial, in case you're wondering. And then you have Max, and he's the ambassador of the Lego comics for the Lego Club magazine. And even though he's missing his hair at the moment, this minifigure is just a promotional minifigure. Again, I think it was part of a deal on the Lego shop around the time where he was the mascot of the Lego Club magazine. So that's just pretty cool. And then next to him is a custom Stig minifigure. He's the race driver from Top Gear. So then as we get towards the end, I've just tried to fill in the space with some different creature minifigures, as well as some quite rare and exclusive minifigures, which we'll get to in just a minute. So at the back you have some Atlantis Sea Monsters. They're all pretty cool. They're like aliens, but underwater style, based on fish, as well as some actual aliens from the Life on Mars sets. And I got these aliens all from the same Life on Mars set that I got most of my sand purple pieces I used on my deep space exploration ship, in case you're wondering which set these come from. So then you have a couple of more aliens, this time from the Space Police theme, like the Squid Man and this orange alien. And one thing I like about this orange guy is how Lego have integrated the colour of the neck piece into the design of the mouth. So it looks like his teeth. See, it's normally when you put a Lego head or custom moulded headpiece over the top of a Lego figure, it often hides the actual head of the minifigure. But in this case, they've used that to their advantage and made it look like the teeth of the alien. So then here you have a Keychain Minifigure, and in case you can't recognise this guy, he's from the LEGO VIP program. So I was one of the first people to sign up to the VIP program, well, probably around the first couple of thousand, to get a member card, and as a result I got a unique member ID and was also sent this VIP program minifigure in keychain form. And you can see I've kept the keychain on at the back there. You can see just a little bit of the VIP logo. But I think that's a really cool minifigure, and I always love chrome minifigures since you don't often see a lot of them, and they're usually only reserved for chrome silver, like the chrome Star Wars minifigures, some of which I have at the bottom. But that's just another cool promotional minifigure. Then above that you have a main character from the Lego Island games. And this guy, he's just a birthday themed minifigure. He was part of a party pack that included several copies of this minifigure that is designed for you to give out to your friends at parties. And before we get to these two minifigures, this Mickey Mouse is an actual official Lego minifigure, just a very old variation. And if any of you have seen my custom Lego Mickey Mouse statue video, you might know that this is the very first Lego minifigure from my very first Lego set. So that's a pretty special figure for me. You could say this is what started my Lego hobby and my Lego collection of really all of these minifigures. So then, now we get to two of probably the most rarest and most exclusive minifigures you'll ever see. And that's because both of these minifigures were available as part of the LEGO Inside Tour from 2010. So in case you don't know what the LEGO Inside Tour is, it's basically an exclusive visit to the LEGO factory and LEGO design studios in Billund in Denmark, where you get to meet the designers, build your own LEGO set in a competition, and take a tour of the factory and see how official LEGO sets are actually produced, all the way from the moulding machines to the design process at the start. I was lucky enough to go on the Inside Tour in 2010, around a year before I started my LEGO YouTube channel, and everyone that goes on the tour gets one of these minifigures. And you can see that this design of the minifigure includes the LEGO logo, as well as 4 bricks, and 2010, the LEGO Inside Tour contact email address at the time on the back. And this is a very exclusive torso print, since the only way to get this is to go on the Inside Tour, and since this was the one from 7 years ago, you can see how this would be quite hard to find nowadays, since that was the only way to get it if you went on the tour. So you can see why I've displayed this minifigure, and why I think this is one of the rarest minifigures that I have. But then you also have this minifigure next to him. And this minifigure is probably just as equally rare, since this isn't really a minifigure, this is more of a business card for the old CEO of LEGO. And you can see his name is printed onto the front of the minifigure, as well as his old phone number and email address for when he was the Chief Executive Officer of the LEGO company. And like I said, this was his style of business card, and I was only able to get one of these minifigures by actually meeting him, the CEO of LEGO, and I met him on the Inside Tour back in 2010, and of course since then LEGO has a new CEO, so this is also a super rare and very exclusive minifigure, and I'm really happy that I can say that I own one. So that's just a quick look at a couple of some of the rarest LEGO minifigures that you might not have even heard of before this. Okay, so the next row of my minifigure collection display is home to a wide variety of licensed LEGO minifigures. Mainly superhero minifigures in the middle, as well as some Pirates of the Caribbean, Indiana Jones, and other random licensed minifigures at the start. So these include some of the Toy Story minifigures, and these are also from 2010. You can see these are some of the first times that LEGO used long legs and long arms for characters like Woody. And Buzz Lightyear there, he's also pretty cool. He's also from the same Toy Story range, not from the Disney collectible minifigures where they used a normal minifigure head. This version of Buzz, they used a custom head, which I think works much better. Then you have one of the grabber machine aliens in the back there. And Zurg, I believe he's called, basically the bad guy from Toy Story 2. Then towards the back, you have another Disney franchise, Prince of Persia, that movie that came out around the same time as Toy Story 3. that was based off the Prince of Persia video games. You can see the main characters and just a couple of others. And then next to them, here you have some Spongebob minifigures. And these minifigures are even older. I believe they came out around 2006 or 2008. Here you have SpongeBob himself, although he's a little bit chubbier than the show version, probably due to his minifigure-sized arms and big legs. As well as Patrick, he looks a bit more accurate to the show's version. Mrs. Puff, the boat school driver, and some superheroes versions of SpongeBob and Patrick. And then again, we move on to a different theme, and this time it's the start of the superhero minifigures. And these start with Spider-Man. So I have 3 different versions of Spider-Man. These first 2 are from 2004 and 2003. These are the very first versions of Spider-Man that LEGO produced, as well as a more recent version that is based on the comic book outfit of Spider-Man. Then you can see some of the enemies like the Green Goblin and Venom. I personally prefer the older versions. I think that the middle one is the best combination, since you can use this one to represent the comic version and movie versions of Spider-Man. But it's good to have all 3, just so you can compare them and see the difference. So then next towards the middle are my superhero minifigures. Again, these aren't arranged in any particular order. I've sort of grouped them by Marvel superheroes at the top, but then towards the front you have all of the DC Comics superheroes. At the back there are a collection of different Iron Man suits. So the first one is one of the very original Iron Man minifigures that LEGO produced. You can see he's missing a head at the moment, because I've used that head to create a custom silver Iron Man suit minifigure. And this was one of my very first custom minifigures. I made this years and years ago, but I think it works really well with the Power Miner's torso and looks just like the silver suit version of that character. And then you have some official suit variation designs produced by LEGO next to it. Then you just have some more of the Marvel superheroes at the back, as well as Thanos. He's the version from the little car sets, where he usually has short legs. I've just added some normal minifigure sized legs, just to make it a bit more like a real minifigure. And then here you have all the different Batman and DC superheroes. So you have some like the Joker from the LEGO Batman movie, as well as a couple of different variations of Batman's costume, also from the Batman movie, as well as some of the comic book versions, all just from the same sort of sets. So then moving on from the superheroes are all of my Pirates of the Caribbean minifigures. And Pirates of the Caribbean is one of my favourite film series, and I was really excited when LEGO decided to produce sets based off the movie that was coming out around the time, The Fountain of Youth. And I've bought pretty much all of the Pirates of the Caribbean sets from the first wave. You can see that's how I've come across all of these different versions of Captain Jack Sparrow. So you have a Jack Sparrow in his full outfit, a version of the Voodoo doll from the more recent movie, one where he's got an alternative skeleton face for the scene during the first movie, as well as some different variations, like the one where he's got lots of different eyes painted on to make him look like one of the gods of the Aborigines over at the back from the second movie. And then you have some of the other characters like Blackbeard and Barbosa in his skeleton form, as well as some of the other characters from Pirates of the Caribbean. And then right at the end of this shelf are some Indiana Jones minifigures. And Indiana Jones is another series of movies which I've always loved, and they're probably one of my favourite movies. So again, I made sure to collect as many of the sets as possible. And I don't have nearly all of the minifigures on display here, but I've just got some of the main characters, like Indiana Jones himself, then Sean Connery as his dad, as well as all of the other characters from a variety of the different films. The next shelf is home to my Star Wars minifigures. I've been collecting LEGO Star Wars sets for a very long time, and that's why this section of the display includes minifigures that range from a large variety of the years that Star Wars was released, going from the original yellow-skinned minifigures all the way up to the more recent flesh-toned Star Wars minifigures, as well as some of the most current and most recent versions of the characters. And that's what we'll start by looking at. So here you can see is the main cast of the original trilogy. They're just the most current versions from the newest Death Star set. Then in the middle, I've included a couple of exclusive minifigures, the Celebration style Luke and Han Solo. And I actually got each of these minifigures separately from 2 LEGO Star Wars books. And obviously they work really well together, and I think they look quite nice in this part of the display. And then in the corner there's just a classic Yoda, and he was actually originally a keychain, much like the VIP minifigure keychain on the shelf above. And you can just see the top of his head includes a small hole where the chain part of the keychain used to go. But I just removed that so I could have a classic Yoda minifigure. I think that works quite well. And then you can see more of the characters from the original trilogy towards the middle and the back. And this here is just a custom Lando Calrissian, since I always wanted the one from the old Cloud City Star Wars set. But as you might have seen, if you looked up that set recently, that is one of the more rare classic LEGO Star Wars sets, and definitely one of the more expensive ones. And that's why I think that it would be really great if LEGO was to do a updated Cloud City set and includes updated versions of all of the characters. I think that'd be a really popular choice. So moving along, we get to some aliens like the Ewoks and Greedo. And Greedo here is another one of the coolest designed LEGO minifigures. I really like the colours that they used for this character. Very accurate to the movie version. And you can see also some battle droids, the pilot, security officer, as well as the sand red battle droid used on the desert planet in episode 2. That's also quite a rare one. And then in the middle, I've just included a classic General Grievous, and this is also one of my favourite Star Wars minifigures and Star Wars characters in general. Even though the latest version of General Grievous in minifigure form is much more accurate to the movie and TV show versions, I still think this one has a bit of the classic LEGO charm, and it's definitely one of my favourite original Star Wars minifigures. And then behind him are a selection of the characters from Jabba's palace, as well as a chrome silver C-3PO type droid, who was a promotional minifigure, just came alone in a single packet. This is also another cool one, since even though this character isn't really that relevant in Star Wars, he's still a very well designed minifigure, and I especially like how they've used the normal coloured print to represent the wires and the eyes alongside the chrome. It's a really nice effect, and even though it's a bit shiny, I think that looks really cool as a whole. So then as we get towards the middle of my Star Wars display, I've included a Darth Vader. And not just any version of Darth Vader, the very first original LEGO Darth Vader minifigure. And of course I have a more updated version that I also got in the Death Star set. But I think for this display, it's much more interesting to showcase some of the more uncommon minifigures, the older versions of these minifigures, since you don't really see so many of them nowadays, as LEGO always uses the most up-to-date versions that they have. So alongside Darth Vader, there's also the classic versions of the Stormtroopers, Scout Troopers, as well as some of the other different Imperial troops. And then you have a Chrome Silver Stormtrooper. This was also another promotional minifigure. And I believe this one was either from Toys R Us or the online LEGO store. This is also awarded for purchasing a certain amount of Star Wars sets, and I also got this one a few years ago. And then moving along, here we get to some of the Boba Fett's and Jango Fett's. And both Boba and Jango Fett are some of my favourite character designs in Star Wars. They're also pretty cool characters, and I've always liked them, so I've always aimed to get as many as I could in minifigure form. So starting with the original Boba Fett design, even down to the old grey colour for his arms and legs. And this is one of the Star Wars minifigures that many people actually prefer the old version, or at least think it's much more Lego-like, meaning it looks much more like a minifigure compared to the latest version. And this one here isn't the latest version, but it's one of the updated versions of Boba Fett. And looking at the helmet shape, you can see how, even though it's much more accurate to the movie version, it doesn't really look as much like a minifigure as the original styles of Boba Fett do. And here's also a classic Jango Fett. And this minifigure is actually quite rare and was fairly expensive for quite some time, since you could only get this one in one set with Jango Fett's ship. That also came with the young Boba Fett over here. And as you can see by the yellow skin tone, this set was released quite some time ago, in 2002. But I think that's also really nice, and it's good to display all of the different styles of Boba Fett's armour all next to each other, since it really helps to see the comparison. And there's one more style that I own, and that is the completely white Boba Fett. And this is also a pretty rare and exclusive minifigure. I got this as a part of a promotion in Toys R Us quite a few years ago, but that's also based on the original design of the minifigure, and this character, this version of Boba Fett, is based on some concept art. And then towards the end of this Star Wars minifigure display, there's just some more assorted minifigures from different prequel moments and some advent calendar minifigures. So for example, here are some episode 2 style Anakin and Obi-Wan, as well as the Bounty Hunter, and some of those Geonosians, those flying insect-like minifigures. And here you also see a Christmas version of Darth Maul and R2-D2. They're pretty funny. And then you have some episode 3 versions of Anakin and Obi-Wan, as well as a number of different clones and a Mandalorian over there in their different styled armour. Okay, so now we've reached the bottom shelf of my minifigure collection display, and as you can see, this area contains my Harry Potter minifigures, as well as some minifigures from other licensed themes, and my custom designed minifigures on the end there. But we'll start by taking a look at the Harry Potter ones. Lego Harry Potter was one of my favourite licensed themes back when it was around, and as a result I've collected quite a few of the sets, and as you can see here, I've ended up with quite a few of the minifigures from all the different books and movies. So these aren't arranged in any particular order. I've just placed them roughly into groups or categories where I think they look the coolest. So you can see, if we start at the left, here are some Hogwarts students, most importantly Harry and his crew in their uniform. And then you have the goblins from Gringotts Bank up the top there, both the newer and the oldest versions. And then Dobby, the house elf, just over there. And then another group of minifigures are the Weaselly family, and I got most of these minifigures from Ron Weasley's house, the set that was in. And then you can see some more categories of minifigures, like the Prisoner of Azkaban Night Bus characters. So you have the conductor, both versions of him, the old one and the new one. The new one missing his head currently. Then you also have the driver of the night bus next to him. Then you just have Harry in his casual uniform, and some of the professors of Hogwarts School. And I've lined up all of the professors on the very front row. since I think they look the best over here. And you can see all of them with their different shapes and sizes and heights. Then up above here are some of the Goblet of Fire characters and versions of Harry and Hermione and Ron. So you have the Dragon Challenge version of Harry Potter. Then the underwater version with his gills on his face. And also the other student from the other wizard school. This time he's got a shark head. And this minifigure was one of the first ones to use a custom animal or alien type head, since this minifigure was released well before other LEGO themes to feature minifigures with alien heads or animal heads like LEGO Atlantis, and this was one of the original ones. And you can also see a merman next to him. And at the back there's just a few different types of Dementors, as well as one of the classic versions to the right. And these are some of the only duplicate minifigures which I've included in the whole collection. But that's just because I think they look pretty good on the back row there, and I didn't really have any other relevant Harry Potter characters to include at the back. And then moving on, there's just some more different assorted Harry Potter characters, as well as a custom Cedric, also from the Goblet of Fire. That was just one of my early attempts at a custom minifigure. You can see the simply printed out decal on the front of his shirt there. And then as we reach the end of the Harry Potter minifigures, I've just filled in the gap between my custom ones and the Harry Potter ones with a few Doctor Who characters, just from the LEGO Ideas set. So now we get to my custom designed minifigures. I've actually got tutorials on how to build most of these, if you see any that you want to recreate yourself. And I'll leave the links to the tutorials where you can find out how to build them in the description if you want to have a go at making some of these for your own minifigure collections. But we'll start off at the bottom, and you can see this is all of my Team Fortress 2 characters. So you have the Pyro Engineer, the Soldier, the Spy, Sniper, the Scout, although he's hiding behind the Demo Man's sticky bomb launcher at the moment. And then you have the Heavy, and the Demo Man, and the Medic. The full set of 9 classes, and you can see the red team is at the bottom, while the blue team is in the middle. And then another video game character is the Fallout 4 Soul Survivor in his Vault Dweller outfit, as well as a version of him wearing power armor. And the power armor helmet is made out of a custom spray painted Star Wars Stormtrooper helmet. And I believe that helmet is actually from the Episode 3 Clone Trooper. Next to the Fallout minifigures are a few Hearthstone or World of Warcraft characters. So you have the Druid, Uther, the Paladin, and a Warrior over on the right. And they're also pretty cool and very unique character designs that I think I've recreated in LEGO form pretty well. And then finally, the last minifigure on my minifigure collection display is Assassin's Creed 3 Assassin. And I made this for an old animation that I uploaded to my channel a number of years ago, based on the trailer for Assassin's Creed 3, back when that game was originally released. And I think this turned out pretty well for one of my first custom minifigures. You can see he's got a bit of a cape at the back, as well as his iconic assassin-shaped hood. So that concludes that row of my minifigure collection display. I hope you found this look at my minifigure collection display interesting, and maybe you even learned about some minifigures which you didn't know existed before. You can let me know which of these minifigures is your favourite in the comments below, and I'll be back next time with another video. Thanks for watching.